Okay, and yeah, we're live.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Green Dragon. We are smoking already.
We are.
So let's go into. I mean, no surprise with me. I'm just going with this. I'm going with Old Faithful, Burley Flake and Maduro in the GQ pipe, which is the straight Merlot Billiard, and it's very good.
Lovely little pipe. Lovely little blend. So much so that I've fallen suit. Actually, I've relented, having not been able to get hold of Senoir on the last order. I've taken a trip down to Burley Town. I've also gone down Burley Flake one.
Yeah.
I've also gone for a pinch of Maduro Leaf, and it's just delightful. And you are absolutely right, H.
Yeah.
The flake just does something in terms of, because of the density, it just holds up that temperature a little bit.
It slows everything down.
Slows it down, and that little twist of Perique as well just adds a little bit of that clever bit of C&D Perique just towards the bottom end of the bowl.
Yeah.
Really keeps it smoking and tasting good all the way through. Man, I'm a believer.
Yeah.
I'm an absolute believer. You've got me absolutely sold on it.
Definitely not. It's the bold dark burley and the rich Maduro and all those flavors that go with it, and then just the touch of Perique just sets it off. That's why it's the only thing I've been smoking for ages now. Oh, bro, it says sign into chat, bro.
Let's sign in. Okay. Okay, you are. Good. Okay.
Yeah, so we can have some audience engagement.
And get some guys on. So, I've also got this in a nice rusticated. This is one of the first pipes I picked up. Actually, this is the Blakemore Aristocrat. Forgive me, for the
Woodstock,
for the shit. It is the Woodstock. It absolutely is the Woodstock. You've got better memory than I have, and it's my pipe. Yeah, it's just been a really faithful pipe. Just a very gentle bend to the end of the stem, a sort of fishtail type stem. But for a straight, this smokes so nicely. But yeah, I'm a big believer in this blend. So, we're going to try something a little bit different tonight. I know we do kind of reviews of stuff of films, but we're going down the route of a bit of a series. So, in this series, we're going to look at Greek tragedies, or more specifically, like modern takes on Greek tragedies.
Yeah. And we're looking at the mod flick, really.
We are.
Because it's kind of the modern morality tale.
Yeah.
Tragedy. So.
Correct. Yeah, and it's they're a great example of that modern, a great modern example of that old Greek tragedy of building something up. You know, something starts off small. And the self-made guy, and he kind of, and then things happen, and a bit of hubris, a bit of pride, some red flags.
Yeah.
And then huffing their own hype.
Yeah. Getting high on their own supply.
Getting high on their own supply is great.
Yeah.
And it's more of a guideline. And then eventually the big payoff, the crumbling, crushing come down.
The catharsis.
Come down being a good one. Because we're talking tonight about Antonio Montana of Cuba.
Yeah.
AKA
Scarface. Kicking off with a banger, kicking off with a classic. Yeah. Scarface. We're talking, it was 83, right?
83, 84, yeah.
Yeah.
A remake.
Yeah, which I didn't know until recently. It's a remake of a 1932 film where Tony Camote, right?
Yeah.
He's an Italian gangster, and it's Prohibition era, so he's in the booze business.
Now, did I get this right? Because they name-checked Jimmy Cagney. Was it Jimmy Cagney that plays him?
I didn't know.
That just escapes me. He said, James Cagney, I see the film, I'm my dad. It was GI, he was American, he was a Yankee. Take him to watch films. So even if it's not Jimmy Cagney, it's that kind of era. So he's kind of name-checking the previous version of Scarface.
Yeah.
So it was a nice little Easter egg.
And yeah, so this one, directed by Brian De Palma, who also did Carlito's Way with Al Pacino again. Al Pacino's playing the lead. We're assuming that you guys have seen this because it's like 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, and screenplay by Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
And just as a quick synopsis, it's set in a time period where a lot of Cubans were showing up in Miami. So there's a big wave of immigration from Cuba to Miami, United States. And Tony Montana is one of these guys. He makes it over to America, and he's got this idea in his head that he's destined for greatness, and he quickly, ingratiates himself in the criminal underworld there. He works his way up to a point where he's running the show, and then that's when it all goes wrong for him.
Yeah, it's an interesting twist on the mob film, because it kind of starts off, he's already kind of been busted. Like, he's got in, he's already spoken to the police. Normally it's kind of, with a mob flick, it's like kind of a, cops and robbers, good guys and bad guys. Brian De Palma had also, not only did he make Carlito's Way, he also made The Untouchables.
Oh, right. Okay.
And again, it was a film about, kind of, in inverted commas, good guys and bad guys. There's grey areas in between that. But his interaction with the police has already happened at the very start of the film. You're absolutely right. Florida's getting enriched, getting an influx of political emigrants from Cuba, who've effectively Castro's just unlocked the doors to all his jails, and just dumped them all on America. And they spot him straight away. They take a look at his hand and it's like, oh, what do you call this tough guy?
Yeah, he's got a prison tie.
He's marked. But there's kind of like a little bit of, talking about working up. There's kind of a little bit of working up in the hierarchy right at the very start, when he's tapped up to do a hit, a professional hit, isn't he, on a political dissident.
Yeah, Rebenga.
And it throws you in fairly quickly with that. There's not really much of a start up, is there?
No, there is. It can, and so probably we should start there with the first scene. So we're talking about it specifically in terms of Greek tragedies. So the first thing that you get is the hubris. Yeah. That is his just unwavering, relentless belief in himself. Self-belief. Yeah. He's so the first scene is, apart from some establishing shots, the first scene that you get is that he's in, I guess, immigration, and he's being questioned by 3-4 guys, and he's sat down at this table, and he's surrounded by like these 3 or 4 immigration officers. The camera is like circling around, so you get this sense that he's like at the center of the universe, or at least the center of his own universe. And also, you don't see any of the immigration officers' faces. At least you do kind of catch them a little bit towards the end, but you're very much getting the sense that everything is about him, centered on him. And so he's sat down, and these guys are like circling him like vultures, or so he's like, to look at him. In the physical posture the physical situation that he's in, and also the context that he's in, that he's this immigrant trying to get into a new country, he should be on the back foot. He should be in a submissive position. He's small. Yeah.
He's quite unassuming.
Yeah.
And as you said, he's surrounded. He is absolutely. He's in occupied territory.
Yeah.
In a foreign, hostile country.
Yeah.
Surrounded by people that want nothing more than to either chuck this guy in jail for the rest of his life, or boot him back to Cuba, or whack him. Right? They know what he is.
Yeah, they know.
And he is absolutely stone cold.
Yeah. Not only is he stone cold, but he's having fun with them.
Yeah.
He's like toying with them.
Yeah.
He's not giving any straight answers. He looks like, he kind of looks like a dad, like playing around with the children. Yeah. Like they're asking him questions, and he's kind of like deflecting or giving silly answers.
Goofy answers. Yeah.
He's in a serious position.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wants to get into that country.
Yeah.
He's at danger of, like you said, being imprisoned or sent back.
Yeah.
But the way he's acting, because of the belief that he's got in his ability and this destiny that he believes he's got of greatness, he's completely flipped the script on them.
Right. And that's one of the things that kind of picks up, and that's a repeated thematic element that it regularly in the film. He comes back to these areas where he's in immediate existential danger, and he's able to just to some extent bluff it off, to face it up. You know, he's got this armor around himself where he's able to just, like you say, deflect it without really ever looking like he's in danger. Like later on in the film, when is it worth talking now about the eponymous where he's not quite where he gets the scar from, because he never actually goes into that, but where like the making of him, the chainsaw scene.
Well, I was going to touch on just one more scene before that. So, in terms of talking about the Greek tragedy stuff, there's two H's. There's hubris and hamartia, right?
Yeah.
Hamartia in the classical Greek sense, like the fatal flaw, not the Christian sense.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, the hubris is the hamartia.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is his thing. So, he gets through the he gets through immigration, right? They can't find anything to stick to him. He ends up in the camp, where he conducts the hit, right? So again, very risky thing to do. Although it does take place in a riot, but he's trying to get into this country, so you'd think he's keeping his nose clean as much as possible, but he's not. He's getting his hands dirty. Again, that's arrogance. Then once he gets his green card, he's working in the food truck with Manny.
Yeah.
And they're outside the nightclub, and he sees the rich guy in the nice car with the girl, and he's looking at that, and I don't remember what he says exactly, but he's basically saying that should be mine, that should be me.
Yeah.
And even though he's in this like kind of subservient position where he's in this food truck, he's washing dishes, his belief that he should be that guy is relentless. Like it's and nothing you can't tell him nothing, right? And in that scene, he quits the job.
Yeah,
that's where he's getting his money from, and he walks away from it because the belief that he has is so strong that he believes truly that he can walk away from that and be fine. Yeah, because it's going to be he's destined for greatness. Yeah.
And again, and you're right in that this thing of being like self-belief, absolute surety in self-belief, like which is a great sign of people who are in leadership. You want people to go into battle with. They've got to be sure of themselves. They've got to be they've got to be able to take it on, but also that it's a blessing in that sense. He's sure of himself and he knows what he wants, and he's determined that he's going to get it, and that he'll protect his interest at any cost to do that. But then the other side of that is these blind spots that he picks up through the film. One in particular, which was about family.
Yeah, that's kind of the parts of his character that redeem the character.
Yeah,
he's got. Well, even there, he places such importance on family that it informs some of his principles that what he will and won't do in terms of his criminal career. But he also overreaches into, we'll get into it, some weirdness with his own family.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me that I would compare this character, Tony Montana, like in the beginning, to Abraham or Abram. So he's also been sent out into a foreign land.
Yeah.
Like with no real assurances of what's going to happen to him, except Tony's assurance comes from his belief, his pride, his belief in himself.
Yeah.
But Abraham's comes from the assurance from God.
Yeah.
That, look, you have to leave your land.
Yeah.
Go to foreign lands.
Yeah.
You're gonna whatever comes your way, you're gonna deal with. But I will see you through.
Yeah.
But Tony's like, no, I will see me through.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the hamartia.
Yeah. That's a great shout. And so this first, even the the scene with the hit on the political dissident. Like, yes, it's not really sort of a he's not surrounded with people who are going to try and kill him, but it's still a dangerous situation that he could have been whacked in.
Oh yeah, for real.
Conducts this hit, gets his green card, given a job to do by one of the local sort of capos, whatever the equivalent is for the Cuban mob.
Yeah.
El Mono, the monkey.
Yeah.
Played by, speaking of Abraham, F. Murray Abraham, good Orthodox boy.
Yeah.
And he's given this hit to do given a job to do by him to go and do a drop off to pick up the yayo, drop off the money for Colombians who Omar says is he's kind of chatting with his friend. So there's already kind of like a bit of a distrust there. Turns up with the money stashed away somewhere. We don't actually find out where the money is.
Right.
Long story short, the deal goes wrong. The lovely Marta ends up being an Uzi-toting maniac.
Yeah.
And he's again in a situation where he finds himself effectively locked inside somebody's house, hostile rival dealer's house.
Yeah.
This time even worse.
Yeah. So just to set the scene, it's a beautiful Miami day.
Yeah.
They're on the beachfront. The sun's shining. It looks beautiful. It looks like a postcard. There's the pastel beachfront, houses and that.
Yeah.
And one of those houses is where they go for the deal. Now, immediately when he walks in, the tone changes completely. It's a little bit darker. There's Marta on the bed. She looks kind of strung out. The two Colombians look a little bit sleazy. Or there's two?
Oh, yeah.
There's two.
Yeah.
They're looking a little bit sleazy. They're very friendly, but you can see that behind the friendliness is, malevolent intent. So it's contrasted with the outside looking all sunny and rosy, really picturesque, and then the inside looking just kind of sleazy, dark.
Because he hesitates, which is very unusual for Tony.
Yeah.
He never hesitates for anything else. And he stands there and says, Andre, come on in. And he doesn't want to, in a bit like kind of the vampire thing, like kind of reverse that, where he's got to be invited in. There's definitely like this hesitation, about stepping into this other world, or outside where it's peaceful and you've got Grandpa Irving wandering around with a little Zimmer frame, and and it's nice and peaceful. You can hear the birds singing into this den. Yeah.
And as you say, so he goes in to do the deal. There's immediately some distrust because they don't have the yayo. The Colombians don't have the yayo. Tony doesn't have the money, and it quickly goes south.
Mental. Yeah.
So the girl on the bed has got an Uzi. They're all tooled up, and they've got a chainsaw in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So Tony's with what's
He's with Angel.
Yeah.
So not only is this more dangerous even than last time when he was surrounded by cops, and surrounded with people who were going mental in the camp.
Yeah.
Now he's got Angel chained up to a shower curtain rail with a chainsaw, cutting his arms and legs off. And Tony's reaction is, why don't you stick your head up your ass and see if it fits?
Yeah.
Right. He's just, again, nothing. Doesn't land a blow on him, does he, verbally? Just psychologically.
No sign of fear, just complete ice in his veins. And he's making threats to him.
Yeah.
So it reminds me, there's a story about Julius Caesar being a young man and getting captured by pirates. And the pirates trying to intimidate him and impress upon him the seriousness of the situation. He's reciting poems to them.
Yeah.
He's like promising them that he'll crucify them when he gets out of this. And I think the story goes that he actually did get them. It's like just complete belief that it's going to work out. You're going to be fine. And he's the bad guy in this situation.
Yeah.
They think they're the bad guy, but he's the predator.
Yeah. They don't know
that's
who
the way
they've
he's
invited
acting.
in. Yeah, they don't know who they've invited in.
Yeah.
So he gets out of it.
Yeah, so he gets chained up at one point, and right up to the point that the chainsaw is buzzing and is about to make contact with him, there's still no fear, he will not back down.
Yeah.
Manny is outside flirting with some girl, but he comes in clutch right at the last second, and they get out of it.
Yeah. end up getting the yayo, end up taking the money.
Yeah.
Go back to his gaffer, to the boss, and Frank, and he's then it's like the making of him within the business, isn't it? And then it's quite clear then that this guy knows how to handle himself, and he's going places. And Frank, I think at that point is a bit intimidated.
Yeah, by his ability.
Quietly.
Just his raw ability. Yeah.
And so he decides, fairly wisely, it's better to try and make this guy a friend than an enemy.
Yeah.
And gives him another job to do. So he's going to go and face some more danger this time in a very different way. He goes over to Bolivia to go and see who is effectively a baron type, isn't he? A drug baron over in Bolivia, Sosa.
Yeah.
And so in this set of circumstances, again, he's facing danger. This time he is halfway across the world, or down the world, I should say, from that, right? So he's down in Bolivia, a long way from home, in the private compound of this Bolivian drug lord. Surrounded, and this Bolivian drug lord, he's got everything. I mean, he's got a mansion, he's got an estate, he shows him around the factory, he's got his own private army, and again, they're trying to sort of talk business. Omar is sat with him, and Omar's trying to be the big shot and trying to sort of cut the deal. And Sosa quickly realises, speaking between the two of them, although Tony plays a couple of paisan moves, like he eats the lemon out of the finger ball, but there's a couple of things that he picks up on that he thinks this guy could be a serious hitter, and kind of swerves Omar a little bit, and then it turns out that Omar is a stoolie, and he whacks Omar in front of Tony.
Yeah.
And at this point, Sosa stands in front of Tony and says, "You brought a chivato with me. You brought a stoolie with you. That's what I've done to him. Who are you? What kind of guy are you?" In so many words, surrounded by armed guards. Again, he's completely outnumbered, completely outgunned. What's his response this time? "You want to go to war with me? Let's go to war.
Yeah.
I don't break my balls or my word for anybody.
Yeah.
That's my creed."
I always
didn't trust him, didn't like him, didn't trust him. For all I know, he stitched me and my friend up with the Colombians. If you want to go to war with me, go to war.
Yeah.
And he's standing in front of a load of armed guards, just fearless, absolutely, utterly fearless, completely self-assured. And Sosa's mentality and his psychology changes, and his tone changes immediately after he does that.
So all this self-belief is serving him really well up until this point. He's quickly rising through the criminal underworld. He's shown his mettle. He's proven himself. But something is introduced, which I think is the beginning of his undoing, which is the character played by Michelle Pfeiffer, Elvira, who, when we meet her, is Frank's chick.
Yeah.
But Tony takes an immediate liking to her. God knows why, because she's awful.
She's an interesting character.
She's just awful.
Just picking up on the chat, we've got FAC on. Great to have you with us. To talk about movies. 33 years since Alien 3. Wow. Bloody hell.
1992. That's when I was born.
Wild. That's I can't believe that's that
Alien
long
3.
ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fincher.
Good. Yeah. Good film. The assembly cut is really interesting. That initially was going to be a set in a monastery.
Yeah.
And then they kind of bring it back into this circle of faith that the prisoners have got. It's worth maybe looking at one time.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Yeah. So with and up to this point, how's he been in front of people who've been kind of hostile to him? He's been cool.
Exactly.
He's been chatty. He's given them banter. He's given cheeky. Yeah. He's given him some flash.
But he's been very grounded. Like, immovable. And
now.
Yeah. So as soon as he sees Elvira, you can see immediately. He's looking in his eye. He likes her. They go to the club. She wants to dance, but Frank isn't interested in dancing. So she asks Tony. Frank says, "Yeah, that's a good idea. You go up and dance with her." So you see him on the floor with her, and so up to this point, he's been very still, very staid, very grounded, right? And all of a sudden, he's kind of bouncing around like he's become ungrounded.
Yeah.
Because he's around this woman that he's attracted to, and that is the first sign. It's the first sign of him being reactive.
Yeah. And I wondered whether that was a callback to his. What he really yearns for is this. And he says to Sosa at one point in his compound, "You've got everything a man could want." Sosa's got a family.
Yeah.
He's got all the money.
Pregnant,
he's got all the flash, and his wife's having a baby.
Yeah.
And I wonder at that point, is he looking at Elvira and thinking she's young, she's quite hot. It's Michelle Pfeiffer, and she does get much hotter. I think in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
She looks a bit strung out in this.
Yeah.
Perfect casting. She absolutely
great casting,
nails it.
Yeah.
But she's emaciated in
Yeah.
this. But I think he takes a look at her and he thinks this is mummy material. Yeah. Crazily, this is mummy material, and he wants it, right?
Yeah.
So like this self-assured thing, I'm gonna have it, I'm taking it, right? But he's hitched his star to this chick,
and he does tell her that.
Yeah.
But so in my opinion, this is the first time where in the film where he is on the back foot to another character.
Yeah.
Because in any other situation that he's been in, his frame, his self-belief is so strong.
Oh, it's concrete.
Yeah, that he's immovable and people have to react to him.
Yeah.
But in this scene, she is the one who is immovable and stony.
And it's him who's dancing around her.
And he's dancing around her.
Yeah.
And he's broken his frame. He's getting all goofy
Jiggity
and jiggy. Yeah, he's all up here.
Making daft jokes.
Exactly, yeah. And that dynamic is going to play out, and this is where the hamartia and the hubris comes in, because of his self-belief, he begins to overreach, overstep, and that's going to trigger Frank's suspicion, and his unease with him, which it does, because it results in Frank ordering the hit on Tony.
Now at this point, is it worth just mentioning, because there's another side to Tony. We've kind of gone through all this stuff about him in crime, and he's willing to, he's violent, he's willing to take on whoever. It doesn't matter if they're a street level guy or a top level boss. He's willing to stand and trade with anybody. But there's another side to Tony, a side that we don't really see. It's hinted at a little bit at the very start, and it's about his family. When they're asking it kind of builds up to a point, and then it changes tack slightly. The film, takes it out of Miami, the sort of in the city on the beachfront, and it moves, the flash and the pizzazz and the razzmatazz, and it moves it out into the suburbs. Yeah. So we watched this. It was last week, right?
Yeah. We watched it last week. I've seen it a few times, but we watched it again last week with an eye to making some notes so that we could talk about this. So what struck me about that scene when he goes to his mother's house where his mother and his sisters live, is the way it's framed is the house, his mother's house, is kind of in the foreground to the right, and then in the back, you see the skyline of Miami.
Yeah.
The silhouette.
Yeah.
So that's dark. That's in the background.
Yeah.
So we've left Babylon.
Yeah.
Right, and we've come to this. It's a quaint house, but it's very homely, very comforting, there's
beautifully
light,
lit.
Yeah, exactly. There's light coming out the windows. There's the white picket fence, and there's a well-tended garden. So I think, whether consciously or unconsciously, what De Palma's going for here is Eden, in contrast to Babylon. Yeah. It's this lovely garden, and then we go inside the house, and there's religious iconography.
Yeah.
There's the Virgin and there's Jesus. So that kind of backs up that theme a little bit. But also, I think there is an Edenic theme running through the film. And Tony is Adam, right? He's the man that will fall.
There's no other.
Yeah.
There is no other man there, is there?
Right.
So it has to be.
Yeah. Now, there are two Eves in the film.
Yeah.
Now, one of the Eves we've already spoken about, which is Elvira.
Yeah.
She will be the woman who, like Adam, gives into the temptation presented by Eve with the fruit, and that will be the decision that makes him ultimately taste death.
Yeah.
Elvira plays a similar role in which she is the source of temptation that causes him ultimately to make moves that will result in an attempt on his life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
she is the fruit.
She is the fruit.
Yeah.
Not only is she even the fruit, but she's also kind of the serpent as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's playing that serpent role, and she embodies she's very. Like you said, she's very thin.
Yeah.
She has this very slender appearance. She's always wearing these long gowns that look kind of
accentuates that.
Yeah. And she's very cold faced. Very. There's no warmth coming out of her.
No.
Very reptilian.
And she's also in her own way. Interesting that you kind of bring her a cold sort of behaviour out, because she also, but she says something like that to Tony about him, dropping off a banana boat or something, and he reacts.
Yeah, he does.
It's one of the first times you actually see him properly react to that extent. But he tries to give her some cheek, the same kind of cheek that he gave Sosa, the same kind of cheek that he gave the coppers. It doesn't work.
No.
She absolutely straight bats it, doesn't she? Yeah. And says something like, "Oh well, I didn't realise you were so sensitive about it."
Yeah, she got him. She knew that she got him.
Yeah, that's it.
She got the hook in.
She's goaded him.
And you imagine if one of the immigration officers were to make that banana boat joke, how would he would laugh it off, he would play it off.
Yeah.
But he doesn't this time.
Yeah, no, he reacts badly. Yeah.
Now, the second Eve is the other important woman in the film, which is Gina, his sister.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this presents a little bit of weirdness because it is his sister,
and it is weird,
and it is very weird, and it gets weirder.
It does.
But she is really the true Eve. She's beautiful like Elvira, but she's beautiful in a more warm, glowing, very feminine kind of way. She's got the big lustrous hair. She's warm.
Family girl, loves her mom.
Exactly. And the dynamic between the two of them is like, if you didn't know the context that she was his sister, you would assume that she was some kind of old flame.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. There is a weird kind of low-key incestuous romantic undertone to their reunion.
It's played off at times like he's being sort of dad.
Yeah.
That he's kind of looking out for her and he doesn't want her to kind of, fall into the same traps that he does. But I think that's the tip of the iceberg. I think swimming down to the bottom of the iceberg, there's some definite there's daddy in another way, isn't there?
And the mother, she doesn't have really. I don't think we see her again.
No.
She doesn't have many lines or much of a role, but she kind of plays like this, like prophetic role where she's like warning him. I don't remember the words she says, but she warns him basically that if he carries on doing what he's doing, things are going to end badly.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this scene, Manny is waiting outside. He's driven in there, and does Gina come outside and he catches a glimpse of her?
Yeah.
And basically, Manny says he expresses some interest in.
And it's quite innocuous. Oh, she's all grown up.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not because he must have known her from Cuba.
Yeah.
So. And then Tony quickly goes from being somewhat jovial to really stern-faced and tells him that she's not for you.
Reacts.
Yeah.
Again, just like he reacted previously, he's lost his grounding.
Yeah. And he tells him that she is not for him, not for you. So the implication is, like, who is she, like you said, who is she for?
Yeah.
Who is she for?
Yeah.
And Tony is. It's like he's trying to preserve this piece of Eden.
Yeah.
His whole life is in Babylon.
Yeah.
But he's got this one piece of Eden that he's trying to preserve.
It is, but it's Eden for him.
Yeah.
Right, it's his. He still sees it as his domain, doesn't he? So FAC says, Spielberg directed a small scene in Brian De Palma's Scarface. Interesting.
All right.
I wonder, could that be the... Because it's almost kind of a little bit out of place. Is that scene? It reminded me a little bit of the... If you ever see the Apocalypse Now Redux scene where they're in the plantation. No, okay, so there's a scene where they're in the plantation and there's kind of a bit of a love interest. And it's completely... I won't say completely at odds with the rest of the film, but it sits proud of the rest of the film. Different. It is. And I wonder if... Again, it's just complete speculation because I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Do you know which scene it is?
I don't know. No,
FAC, do you know which scene it is? Yeah. Because I couldn't guess. I don't know.
But it does definitely mark a shift in the tone of the film. And then later, as the film sort of progresses, Tony again finds himself in danger. Again, he's surrounded on all sides. He's outgunned. This time, it's a hit on his life. He's gone after. He's tried to make the deal with Sosa himself. He said to Frank, "I'll go out and make my own money to finance this deal." Frank doesn't like that. I'm in charge. There's a bit of a power struggle between them. Initially, he just kind of plays it off as like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." But that's, you know full well, neither of them believe that that's the case. And so Tony is intent. He's already made his mind up. He wants to do the deal with Sosa. Sosa's got what he wants, and he kind of sees himself as that's kind of the new model of how he's going to set himself up in business. And so he goes after Sosa to make the deal with, and Frank in turn, he goes after him in the club.
Yeah, because he's overstepped.
Yeah,
his arrogance caused him to overstep.
Yes,
he jumped rank.
Yeah, and so in this case, like, this could be the Amartya. This could be the start of the fall for many people. This could have been and would have been game over. Yeah. Right? He's got so Frank sends a load of guys in. I'm not sure if they're Colombians, but they're other guys who were brought in to do the hit on them. I think it's played off as being the Diaz brothers. They're not happy with it, that they're being cut out, but Tony knows it's Frank.
It's not Nick and Nate Diaz.
It's not Nick and Nate. No. And so he sends some guys in to go and whack Tony. It fails. Tony clocks it, that it's Frank that's done it, suspects, sets up a fake phone call with one of his guys, Nick the Pig, to call him at 3 a.m. He calls. Frank comes up with a load of who shot John about who it was on the phone. Oh, it's Elvira, and she's just trying to call about something. And at that point, Tony knows game's up, and so Tony makes the move on Frank. Yeah. So again, completely outgunned, completely outnumbered.
Shot as well.
Shot, but survives, comes through it, and then goes after Frank and takes Frank down. Not only does he take Frank down, but critically takes down the Met Intelligence cop.
Yeah.
Who's in Frank's pocket, and who could have been a long-term. He was willing to go along with Tony being the new boss, and for everything to just carry on. You know, he wants some tickets for a trip to England, and he's happy to do the deal. And Tony chucks him a couple of busts, and he keeps all the intelligence coming in for Tony.
Yeah.
But that's not. He's not interested. He doesn't respect it. Why doesn't he respect it? Because he's the antithesis of what Tony is. Yeah. He hasn't got his word. He can't be trusted. He's a liar. And so he cops it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that scene is kind of like the last scene of Tony as underling.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little montage where it shows his rapid ascent
to the limit.
Supremacy. Yeah. Yeah. He marries Elvira. He's got the big mansion in the compound. He's got the tiger. He's built his own battle line.
Yeah.
And he's become this tyrant king.
And it's almost like it struck me as being like a kind of like a gaudy copy.
Yeah.
Of what Sosa had tried to build.
Yeah.
You know, it's like something that you buy if you'd seen it in Disneyland.
Yeah. It's very much a paysan's idea of what like a rich man's mansion would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for real. And then, so even though he's got all this power and this wealth and this status, there's the scene in the bathtub. He's in his bathroom. It's really opulent. Kind of looks like a Roman. It's got the pillars and everything and the marble. And he's in this big bath, smoking a cigar in there. Manny's to one side, Elvira's to the other. And they can't even be married that long, really. But the dynamic between the two is just resentful.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
Yeah, and Manny's just that poor third wheel that's just caught in the middle. But what's noticeable about this scene is now she has fully got the hooks into him.
Yeah.
He is reacting to everything she's saying. He didn't behave like that before. But she's comparing him to Frank.
Yeah.
Taking jabs at him, and he's just
my ex was better.
Exactly, and he's just taking the bait every single time.
Yeah,
completely reactive.
And it's hinted to start with. He drops a couple of lines. He said, "Oh, You know, you need to get yourself a job. You
Yeah.
need to kind of, and like, yeah, it's a you know, it's a bit of a cheap shot. But what he's kind of getting at is, you need to be more homely. That's really what he wants. He wants her. He wants to turn a 304 into a housewife.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to turn a party girl into a housewife.
Yeah, and by this point, he's mentioned at least once that he wants her to be the mother of his kids. So he's clearly family minded, and we can see from the way that he interacts with his own family, his nuclear, you know, his family of origin, that he's, you know, for all his gangster leanings, he is still family oriented.
Yeah, and interesting, like, you know, just as an aside, you know, a lot of sort of gang like structure, like, is very familiar.
It is family, yeah.
You know, you've got the Don Godfathers, and you've got capos, but they're like kind of dads, and you know.
Well, they're called families, aren't they?
Family.
They're called families.
Family. Yeah. And you know, family. Look, he's
Exactly.
family.
Yeah. So.
And she doesn't go for it.
She's not into it now.
She is not in the slightest bit interested.
Yeah.
She likes to get high on their own supply. She likes to party, and it ramps up very quickly. We see another scene where again he's surrounded by, let's say, not necessarily enemies, but he's certainly surrounded by hostile people. He describes them as old mummies.
Yeah.
Right. He goes to a really, really fancy restaurant. Everybody's in black tie, and they're having a nice meal. You know, absolute opulence. They're all eating, top dollar haute cuisine, and they're all looking down their noses at him. And they're all arranged around him. And this time he's absolutely out of it. Right, he loses his ground, and he's kind of off his nut.
He's hard into the marching powder.
He is, and he's reacting. His grounding's gone, and his barb this time to Elvira is basically, not only are you not worthy to be my wife, like you're polluted.
Yeah,
like your body is polluted.
She's infertile.
You're disgusting to me, and man, she's infertile. She reacts really, really badly.
Yeah.
Throws a drink at him, and it's at that point where again he really loses his cool. In his own kind of way. He's not kind of throwing stuff and smashing stuff up and shooting stuff yet. But he turns around to everybody else, and that infamous scene where he stands. I mean, they're all infamous scenes, but like this infamous scene, it's like, take a look at the bad guy. Right, it's the last time you're ever going to see a bad guy like me.
Yeah. Ooh.
But in a way, in a way, that's a bad reaction of Tony's. That's not him being grounded. That's not him brushing off hostility.
No.
He's reacting.
Yeah.
Right.
He's making a scene.
Yeah. And then it then transpires that he gets he starts getting greedy. So Manny in the bathtub. Manny's asking him, "You need to get your money laundered by some other guy. Go and get some other guy to sort it. I've got somebody else. He's going to charge you a bit more, but this other guy's going to charge you less. This other guy's going to charge you less. Let me sort it out." And Tony says, "No, I'm going to sort it out. This is my deal. It's my family. You're the junior partner, right?" Puts him in his place. And so Tony refuses then to get his normal banker to launder the money. He's chasing margin. And so he gets greedy, and his greed then starts to give him this blind spot, and this blind spot is effectively the guy who's offering to launder all this money is a Fed.
Yeah.
He gets collared, and he's facing a decent stretch, not a life stretch, but he's facing some jail time. Yeah. And he decides that's not for me. He goes to see Sosa, and Sosa again says, "We'll sort it." And interestingly, he's surrounded again by people who are, again, not specifically immediately hostile to him, but he's still in danger. Even at that point, he's surrounded by people who could. I mean, these are government level people. These are people who call shots at like UN level. And Sosa tells him, he basically kicks him back down the ladder to just go and do a hit for me. He's not making deals now. He's not cutting big deals for coke. He's performing hits.
Yeah.
He's back. Yeah. He's back down in the immigration camp, doing hits for big people. And Tony said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so Sosa sends out his top hitman with Tony to go and off this guy. And then what happens?
So it doesn't go to plan, right? And the target, they've set a bomb on his car.
Yeah.
Now, what they didn't account for, what they didn't expect, is that he'd be with his wife and kids.
Yeah.
Now, this is again where Tony's principles, and particularly his family-oriented principles, come into play. He refuses to go ahead with the hit. But he's with the hitman, the button guy, who is just a sociopath, cold-faced. He's willing to do it.
Yeah, literally a button man. He's got a button ready to blow this bomb up.
Tony's refusing, and it's kind of a moment where a little bit too late he gets his balls back. But by this point it's too late.
And there's then this clash between Tony's moral code. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird moral code, but he's got his moral code like, I don't go after women and kids. And he refuses to go after women and kids. And this hard-headedness and this self-belief. But he's then also he's too far in now. And this time it goes very, very badly wrong. So he refuses to do it. Turns out the guy, Sosa finds out that it didn't happen. He
kills the guy, by the way.
He does kill the guy. Yeah, that's right. But he shoots the bottom man in the car. He just says, "Oh yeah, we had a problem." So again, I'm in danger. You know, am I going to play it? You know, am I going to deal with it? Like, yeah, I had a problem. I just dealt with him. You know, he's a piece of shit. You know, and so he just deals with it the way that he would deal with street stuff, right? This guy's cheated me. I didn't like the way that this guy behaved, so I dealt with him, right? And Sosa just like hits the roof, and then speaks to him like he really knew what he was, which is a paisan from a Cuban peasant, right? And at this point, Tony again, he instead of playing it off or trying to sort of front it out, he just completely loses it and says, "Right, it's war." And so Sosa sends his guys out.
So prior to this, there's been a little kind of a sub-theme where Manny and Gina have been getting close.
So like nods and winks, isn't it? It's like at the wedding, they're like they're winking at each other.
Yeah, exactly. And there's little moments like where Tony catches Gina, his sister, at the club, and she's dancing with this guy. He's got his hands all over her. Takes her into the bathroom to do coke and stuff. And then he, kicks him out, and he gets Manny to drive her home. And there's clear attraction between them. They're flirting. Anyway, they get married on the low key. At some point, Tony goes to pick up his sister. No, he goes to get Manny.
Yeah, because Manny's gone. Can't find her.
Yeah, so he goes to get Manny, and he sees Gina at the top of the stairs. She's wearing, the bathrobe and nothing else. So he puts one and one, two and two together, and in just like a fit of jealous rage, shoots Manny.
Yeah.
She's distraught, tells him that they'd got married, and they were about to tell him. And then he effectively imprisons her in his mansion. Yeah. So he's crossed the line. He's gone full on. He's doing what he really all his actions were pointing towards, which is that he's taking her for himself and imprisoning her so that no other man can have her. He's killed the husband, his friend. Yeah. And he's imprisoned her.
Like the rival. Like love rival in a way. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, for his sister. Yeah.
For his sister.
So Tony's messed up with Sosa. He's in his mansion with the massive pile of baking powder and baking soda, and he's holed up there because he knows what's coming. Gina's there, and at this point she's straight up calling out the weirdness. She
clocks it, doesn't she? Yeah, she clocks it.
Yeah. So she's calling it out with him. Sosa sends his hit squad, basically his death squad, and so they're pouring into the mansion. taking out his guys on the quiet.
Yeah.
And then they make their way into the mansion.
Yeah.
And that's where Gina gets hit in the crossfire.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that the guy that's sort of leading it, there's a line that Frank uses that's saying, the guys that are flash, the guys that are loud, the guys that are brash, they never last in this business, is what he says to Tony before Tony takes him on. And he sort of half listens, he not really listening, but he's at that point, he sort of looks up to Frank. Frank is like, at that point, he's the Mr. Right now. He's not Mr. Right, but he's Mr. Right now. So he doesn't really say anything to him about that, but he doesn't really listen either, because that's not the way that he behaves. He is Flash. He does want it all. He says, they want the world and everything in it. Right? He's after the lot.
And you see those words a couple of times in the film. So you see it on this like blimp at one point. And I think, if we're not mistaken, it's from the Rudyard Kipling poem If. Something like the last line, like, if you can keep your head and
while around are losing theirs.
If you can, when everything's taken from you, build it up with bare hands and broken tools and things like that. You will have the world and everything. The world will be yours and everything in it. And what's more, you will be a man, my son.
But the guy that sows a sense that he sends to go and basically lead the execution and the wiping out of Tony's crew is right at the very start of the film, when he first meets Sosa, and he's quiet. He never has a line, and he's the one who whacks Omar. He's not the guy with the button. He was also a little bit mouthy in his own way. You don't really get to hear him until he comes over to the stage. He's jabbering away in Spanish to it. But this guy's quiet, and he's like the silent assassin, right? He's black or black clothes, black shades, quiet, very very quiet, never says a word. But he's the one who leads the hit squad into Tony's place.
And it just occurred to me that like that, yours is the one and everything in it, because you see it on the blimp, but Tony also, in his like foyer in his mansion, the centerpiece is this fountain where there's a globe with a scroll around the globe saying the same words. So it just occurred to me that this is probably supposed to point to the central theme, which is, what does it gain a man? What does it benefit a man to gain the world, but lose his soul? Because that is what has happened. He's gained everything. He's gained money. He's gained the woman. He's gained the power, the status, the influence. But he's lost his friend. He killed his friend. He's lost his sister, which is what he prized most. She's dead now. And in the end, he's lost his life and all his possessions.
And does he ever really get Elvira? Like, at no point, I don't remember a single scene where she says anything kind to him.
No.
That she says anything, that she respects him, that she likes what he's done. Every scene that she's in, when they're in together, she makes fun of him being Cuban. She makes fun of his car. She makes fun of his clothes. She makes fun of what she said. You're like basically like your nouveau riche. Like you're not old money. You can't carry it off. You don't know how to be wealthy. In so many words, she never says anything nice to him. She's got no affection for him at all.
No respect, no admiration, no affection.
No affection, no warmth. And Gina does. So Gina does have warmth and does have affection for him, which is where this weird dynamic is. This dichotomy between those two female characters, the two halves of the Eve. And it's interesting that Gina's often in sort of darker clothes, and Elvira's always in like kind of very pale clothes, like icy, ice, cold, unreactive, unresponsive. But so the very final scene, again like another infamous scene, like where he's literally surrounded, he's literally his life is in immediate danger. His sister's just been shot. He's taken a round. Chi-Chi's caught it. Most of his crew are either dead. Ernie's got whacked. He gets the piano wire. And so it's just him.
And he's going hard in the pain.
And so he's got a choice. And at that point, again, it's like he just reverts back to instinct, and the instinct is fight. Take them on.
Which, to his credit, he does well.
He does.
He takes out a lot.
So he picks an M203 up out of his. I mean, we've all got it.
Everyone's got it.
Just reaches for the old M203. and takes them on and takes no end of them down. But the very last bit, the final shot, is Sousa's guy, the quiet guy, in the back, double barrel shotgun. He blows him away, and he ends up in the fountain. Yeah, the world is yours, and he's lying in a pool of blood. Yeah, all the fountain, all the water's gone red, and it fades out. So all that hubris, all that self that self-preservation instinct, all that self-belief has led to him eventually falling literally from his top floor balcony down 2 flights, down 2 stories, into the ground floor, into the pool, in his own blood, like a symbol for hell, maybe. Yeah. Into the pit.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
A descent. Yeah. Certainly a descent. Yeah.
And so it all comes crashing down, and eventually it's so what's it worth? It's gained him nothing.
Exactly.
After all that. So a question that I always have after I've finished watching Scarface is like, what would have been the alternative? What would it have looked like had he, bringing it all the way back, had he gone along with Frank and he'd just been Frank's number 2 and been happy with that? Would it have worked? I mean, obviously he couldn't. Physically, he couldn't. He wasn't psychologically capable of doing that. How would it have worked had he gone with Sosa and towed the line? Had he whacked the guy? Had he compromised his morals and his moral standing? What would that have led to? Would Sosa have lost respect for him? Did he ever have respect for him? Just like Elvira never really loved him or had any affection for him. Did Sosa ever really respect him? Did he just see him as a useful idiot? He's making me money while he's doing okay, but he's a loose cannon. I'll cut him off when he's overstepped it.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I guess if you could go into the film, like maybe at the point where Frank's just took him on and he's just met Elvira, what would you say? You'd probably say, look, forget about Elvira. Yeah. Forget about that. 1, she's already your boss's girl. Yeah. 2, she's awful.
Right? Bad news. Yeah. Yeah, she's bad news.
Yeah. Secondly, you got to let go of this stuff with Gina, right? It's weird. Yeah, it's nice that you're protective over her, but you need to,
do the lizard flappy tongue thing to some other girl.
Yeah, yeah. You got to let
go. Buy another girl an ice cream.
You've got to remember, you've got to keep your trust in Manny, who's been with you since you were a kid. Yeah. Right? And you know what? Maybe he's good for Gina. Yeah. He seems to like her and really want to take care of her.
And those guys, man, they put their lives on the line for him. So Angel dies for him. Yeah. Goes into that because they basically come to Tony's rescue when Angel's being chopped up. It's Manny and Chi-Chi that dig Tony out. They pull him out of that.
Yeah, for real. And I suppose the other thing is respect. If you're going to do this, right, respect the hierarchy. Yeah. Because merit, you're going to move up on merit. Yeah. Don't try and take it because it's going to come back to bite you, and it does.
And he'd gone along with the cop. Yeah, there's all opportunities all along the way where he could have compromised a little bit on that hubris, could have dialed it down a little bit, could have made a decision that would have kept him in the game. Yeah. But that's not him. That's not who he is. It's not what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause, I mean, since we're talking about the Greeks and stuff, if you were to think of like Aristotle's golden mean in terms of the virtues, so like there's a golden mean, so there's like the golden mean of courage, let's say, like on one you've got cowardice, and on the other hand you've got like delusion, in the middle there's courage, right? Yeah. And I suppose that's relevant so you've got self-belief. Okay, so on one end you've got complete timidity and you're a pushover. That's not good. No. On the other end you've got like again delusion and self-aggrandizement. In the middle you've got tempered confidence. Yeah. That's where he should have stayed. Yeah. But he goes into the delusion. Yeah. And that comes with it the paranoia, the suspicion, the misplaced.
He said like, maybe I'm just what you say, paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great shot, and he never because there's obviously this fluctuation between this confidence and courage, this hubris and this courage. That yes, he's courageous when he's because he's not a stoolie, and he has been called out, and he stands up for himself in front of Sosa. It's courageous. What he does is courageous.
He's got courage. To
He
be
has.
sure. He's got courage. You can't say that.
But he never goes the other way. Never.
No.
You know, it never drifts back.
It's never tempered.
Never. And it just seems to kind of ramp through the film, you know, on like a curve that kind of goes up and down a little bit, but it's always more and more, you know, like the song Giorgio Moroder, which was a great pick, by the way, just on a little tangent here. Brian De Palma uses Giorgio Moroder as the composer. Like they call him like the Godfather of disco, so he's like, you know, he was heavily involved in the party scene.
Okay.
Great pick, I think, for the music and the one of the songs like "Push It to the Limit." And it's like he's just going harder and harder and harder, and he's pushing the limit as far as it will go, and then further. And then by the time the film's done, he's far beyond gone.
Gone past the limit.
Yeah, and again some of the other music that helps sort of support that dancing scene where he's jigging around like Zebedee, right? He's boinging up and down in front of Elvira. It's a song called Rush Rush, and it's written by Giorgio Moroder, but it's Debbie Harry that sings it.
Right.
To look at, you think, well, she's kind of got that Debbie Harry look
She
a
does
little bit
resemble
about
Debbie
her.
Harry, yeah.
You know, this very sort of cold, detached,
Class.
yeah, right, glassy-eyed, you know, party girl.
That's a great point. Yeah, she does resemble her. Yeah.
Which is interesting because the other composers that Brian De Palma's used in other films, like in Scarface, was like an Italian composer because he uses Ennio Morricone,
right?
In some of the other films. But for this, it just fits really perfectly. You've got this really sort of synth heavy, like party music. Very much of the time, they say, "Oh, when it dates it, it does," but it's of the time. Like,
it puts it in a certain thing. Yeah.
But yeah, so the you know this sort of slow kind of descent. It's not really a descent; it's a descent in terms of morality, because we all know what's coming. But it's like, to him, it's an ascent, right? Like, I'm doing good. I'm doing better. I've got more money. Like I bought a tiger. Like, I've got a mansion. I've got everything. But at the point where he thinks he's got everything, he's got nothing. Right.
Yeah. Probably when he's got the least of all, really.
Yeah. Just a cracking film.
Incredible
So
film.
good. You know, we've only really touched on kind of a few, you know, a few other themes. There's other stuff in there as well about, you know, all the subtext. Where did he get that scar from? Talks a bit about his dad. You know, where's his dad? He says, "Oh, my dad was a Yankee. He was like you. He's a Jack." Is he?
Probably a lie.
Is it a lie? Is it really? Could it be? Could have been. Could have been. You know, we never really he never talks about his dad. His whole his nuclear family dynamic's really weird, and again, it touches on it, but it's, you know, what was this thing that his mum had got about him? You know, because we only really get it at the point where his mother already knows that he's no good. So how did that start? Where did that come about? You know, there are other elements to it which are sort of hinted at, but not really sort of finished off, not really completed as part of the film, which I think is, you know, is testament to just how deep, you know, the film could be, given that it's already like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But it holds your attention all the way.
It does,
through.
yeah.
So man, great film. Really, really enjoyed it. I think we've got some other mob flicks that we're going to look at next.
Yeah.
I'd like to do Casino.
Yeah, Casino, Goodfellas. Maybe Godfather. Yeah, that'd be good. And it's an interesting, because there are sort of rises and falls in that. But as one falls, another rises. Yeah. And Michael sort of comes in. So we'd like to kind of maybe go through a few of these over the next couple of months. So we'll go for the next couple of casts or so. Yeah.
And
that'll be the running theme.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, bro, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
thanks very much, man. Yeah, it's been really good. So we'll go and we'll take another one for the team. We'll go and do another epic.
Yeah.
We've got some more Leave to Smoke. We've got some coffee on. We've got some bourbon on. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you guys.